It's Space Week. Welcome. We're going to talk about manufactured weather, manipulated sound, and comedy. This is Inverted World Live. Oh boy, for those of you who've watched this show, you know we've had gremlins creeping into these wires. The demon door downstairs has not been touched, so this is totally new. So, expect chaos, but that's perfect. I'm very excited for today's episode. We got a lot of fun things to talk about. We have a great guest. I'm very, very excited to talk to him. But first, I am joined by Alex. What's up?
Hey, Shane. How's it going? Hi, everyone. Sorry for any audio issues you hear out there. We might be loud. We might be low. Just let me know in the chat, and we'll try and fix it.
Is your heart racing at all?
Yeah,
it wasn't like we were just freaking out beforehand.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is about today, but...
It's all good. I was almost late today because I went around to all of my local Doomsday Prepper friends, and I wanted to promote this podcast door to door to make sure they're coming in.
Don't be one of those.
Watch. I had to. I'm a bit of a Jehovah's Witness when it comes to this podcast. I prefer the door-to-door stuff. Put a face to the podcast in the real world. A bunch of homesteaders that I know, because our awesome guest today does a lot of this stuff at home, and I'm very jealous of a lot of the things that he makes, and I think it's great. So we're gonna talk about a lot of that and much more. Let's bring in Owen Benjamin.
Hello.
Yo, it's great to see you, man. How are you?
Good to see you too. I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Despite all the gremlins in my wires, pretty good. But yeah, I'm serious. I have a lot of friends in the area who are homesteading, and they're interested in raw milk and raw cheese, and it's something you do a lot of, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the raw cheese is the first product we've made that we can actually make a profit on, which is cool because my wife has become an incredible cheesemaker, and raw cheese made from scratch, like hand milked A2 Jersey cream. When it's not pasteurized or homogenized, the cream just goes to the top, and we press our own cheese, and it's unbelievable cheese.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really healthy.
We exclusively drink raw milk for the past 8 years, and it's great. I love it. I bought into a lot of the propaganda against raw milk growing up, and we started trying it after our first was born, and it's I'll never go back. It's the best. It's like stepping outside of all of the institutional propaganda, which is why I named this episode Hell or High Water, because you're someone who has come up against a lot of obstacles in different worlds. Here you are, literally building back better.
Yeah, it's the only way to go. I mean, victim consciousness is like poison. It's like drinking poison. So whatever you have a problem with, you have to, even on a small scale, you have to do what you want to see in the world. That old Gandhi quote is so true. Be the change you want to see in the world. Mm-hmm. Other than that, it's just like yelling into a void. And I've done that before, and it just doesn't work. So even if it's a garden on a windowsill in an apartment, it's always a step in the right direction. And so I had an issue with Hollywood comedy and how it was becoming so degenerate and controlled, and it was funded by all these outside forces. And so this new special that I have coming out on Friday, the Must Be Nice, on October 11th, it's completely outside of that. And it's a lot harder to do than people think. To get, I was banned from PayPal and Vimeo and Venmo, and I was banned from Airbnb. Like, I can't rent out a house on Airbnb, and I've never even been accused of a misdemeanor. It's like you listen to Puff Daddy in the gym, and I'm not allowed to sell a special on Vimeo,
right?
Because it was outside the system. And so you can do it though. And so we bought a piece of land in the middle of the country in Missouri, and we put up a tent. And we started having these events and these festivals, and recorded our own special, and it's coming out on my website, owenbenjamin.com, on Friday. And it's surprisingly clean. It's surprisingly wholesome, because it's not about being shocking. It's not about like hurting people. It's about comedy that isn't, degenerate. It doesn't pull people down,
Yeah. You are very inspiring to me for the comedy, but for the things that you've done and the obstacles you've been up against with, you're talking about Hollywood, but even after that, I watched your video you put out earlier about the problems you face with the land, the zoning. So, there's all these issues, especially the resistance you meet when you're trying to build your own thing outside of the, pre-approved spaces that we have. And a lot of the things we talk about on this show, it is a lot of doom and gloom. I've been accused of being a catastrophist. And I think that's fair because we're going to get into some things that are catastrophizing in just a bit. But, what is it? What is it for... I want the people who always hear that every week to have some inspiration for solutions and how they can go about breaking away from all these pre-approved spaces while things seem to be getting increasingly darker outside. Like, what can you tell people to give them that spark?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is like electric. I've been researching electricity and magnetism a lot lately because I realized I knew very little, and my sons are very interested in it. So we got these like homeschool STEM sets of making radios and making all this stuff. And it's as close to magic as anything I've ever seen. And the amount of electricians that don't know what electricity is like no one knows what it is. Even the mainstream keeps changing how they describe it and all of it. Speed of light, all of it is up for grabs. It's not a given. And I realized that the government is kind of like a resistor. So in a circuit, like a lot of these things that people complain about are resistors. So it stops voltage from going too hot, too fast, and burning everything out. And so the very bureaucracy and the very incompetence that people complain about is actually part of the circuit. And so it keeps things from just like rapidly escalating. And so once you understand the nature of these things, like the nature of a bank, the nature of a government, the nature of a coyote, like what does a coyote want? How does it operate? I could sit around and cry about coyotes eating my goats, or I could build a fence and understand the nature of a coyote, or get a Great Pyrenees, Right. And it's like that with all of these things. And another thing to help motivate people is that it's all on us. It's like the government reflects our character. That's why it's called a personal constitution. It's like the word constitution is about your character. And that's why where I live in Idaho, there's very, very little government intervention. It's not heavy-handed at all because the people have very high character. And then you go to areas where it's more degenerate, needy, people want something for nothing. You're going to get more government because they're asking for it, and so there is catastrophes, there is doom and gloom, there is horrifying shit going on all the time. So you're not wrong. What I would recommend to people to get that spark going is that it's fair. It's like balanced, like the light and the dark. It's fair. Like wherever there's a vacuum, something fills it. Wherever somebody aggresses on you, it opens a door. And that's true. So, like with COVID was a great time for people to level up. I wouldn't have realized a lot of these things if that hadn't happened. Right. I started learning more about the law because I wouldn't wear a mask ever.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, how do I survive in this environment? And that's what got me more into growing my own food, understanding private versus public, understanding how debt operates, insurance companies operate, how those type of systems are the enforcement wing. And so basically what it shows you is that it's on you. If you want freedom, you have to literally take on the accountability and responsibility for that freedom.
Yep.
And so that's been very inspiring, and it's really fun. And you realize that wealth isn't, digits in a bank account. I mean, look at Puff Daddy. It can all be taken. It's character. It's like trust, community, family, skill set. Like the amount of currencies, and current is like current in an electric circuit that swirl around us all the time is profound. And just being honest, just working hard, just doing something for someone else is very, very valuable.
Oh yeah, I agree. And I want to get into more electricity with you in just a minute, but you bring up Diddy a few times. You have been in that Hollywood world, and when I see these things with Diddy and stuff, I can't help but think about the phrase "selling your soul." Is that something you saw going on out there? Like, do you take that literally? Because I feel like I see a lot of that happening out there, especially when it comes to the Diddy stuff. Like you almost selling your soul, doing evil things to take part in this fame monster. Not to quote Lady Gaga.
Yeah, it's not just Hollywood; it's everywhere. It's like especially with idols, though. It is Hollywood is big, but so are CEOs. So are anybody that vacates in order. How do I describe it? All right, a lot of celebrities, they're only worshipped and given all this money and attention because they're saying the things that people want to hear. And the minute you go off that, or you don't satisfy that itch, or give them what they want, they'll throw you. You know, it's like the Joker. It's like they'll eat you. Like they'll turn on you immediately. And so selling your soul, I think, is like not having any honest truth to what you're saying. Like you don't really exist. You're saying, I will ride the wave of the stockholders so that I can live in a giant house. And so that's what I see. And I see it, you know, all over the place. People just accepting almost like this non-existence so that they can just be filled in by the wants and needs of others. I know that's it's like a bizarre concept, but once you get it, it's so clear that a CEO can't do anything. They're riding the wave of public perception and what the stockholders want. Like they can't say, same with presidents, they can't really do things. So the bigger the celebrity, the more they almost don't exist. Like, can you imagine if J-Lo just out of nowhere was just like, you know, I don't like Puerto Ricans or something.
Right.
You know, like that's it.
Right. It would be a meltdown.
Like if Lady Gaga was against abortion, you know, she's like, yeah, abortion's murder, right? Imagine that, like her whole.
The attack would be crazy.
Yeah, she'd probably it'd be insane because they don't love her. They love what she represents. It's like a black mirror, and so that's how I view selling your soul, and that's why and it creeps in on people, even in just small influence circles, where you might have a really big Christian audience and you don't understand the Trinity, and but you don't say that because you don't want to offend people and lose the support. Like little tiny things lead you down the path until you're, praying with Jordan Peterson and it's just like a mess.
It's like pick your brand, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
A brand doesn't have a soul. So it's like, but that's how I view the government. So a gun doesn't kill a person does. Like a gun is an object. You have to have human consciousness to kill a man.
Right.
A government is a system. It's a pile of paperwork. The people operate within it, but it's all consent. It's all choice. It doesn't exist. Like a patch or a clothing choice or like a red and blue light with a sound, like that doesn't, it just triggers an emotion in somebody, but it's not alive.
It's almost, it's almost like the way you're describing these more degenerate places that beg the government for more. It sounds very similar to what you're saying about fame too. They both basically seek more control over you and get what they want. And if you reject it, they push you out, which basically what kind of happened to you.